Hello. So she's back from her 300-mile service. She's lubed up and looking beautiful, and of course the all-important performance mods have now been installed. You can see here the YSS suspension on the back. You know about the pipes, these are the Scorpion Red Powers. We've got the air intake from DNA and the fuel mod as well. So she's ready to go. All that is left to do is to jump on and find out if things have improved. Just before we get on the bike, the other thing you'll notice is a little cosmetic thing, but the headlight brackets, they've changed. These are now the Moton Customs headlight brackets. We also have these Moton Customs bar risers here, which I'll talk about as well in a minute, which look absolutely brilliant. That just brings it up by an inch up and an inch back as well, so really nice comfortable rider position there. I've got the bash plate on order. It's not there at the moment, so I haven't installed that yet, but that's coming. But apart from that, you know this bike, she's looking beautiful. Let's go for a ride. So if you didn't check out the previous video, the mods that we're talking about today are the DNA air filter with the bracket, the fuel plug, and the YSS piggyback suspension. I have actually ordered the front springs from YSS as well, so I've got the full kit that will go on the bike shortly, but I just want to get these shocks dialed in first so I can figure out what's happening there on the back before we start messing around with the front. Otherwise, I just think there's going to be too many variables and it's going to be a bit of a mess. A couple of notes on the YSS shocks. Getting those on was a little bit of a faff. It's only because they come with a ton of preload dialed in, and you have to slacken that off in order to get the eyelets to match up. So it was a bit of trial and error getting them on, but once you get rid of all that preload, super easy. They just slot in. You just got to bolt them up properly, get the torque specs right and all that. And the first time I took the bike out with these shocks on, honestly, I nearly broke my back. Oh, and it's still pretty harsh as well. And that's because out of the factory they come, as I said, with I think something like 17 tons of preload. So they're pretty much set up halfway down the thread. And oh my god, I thought, well, I'll just check it and see what it's like with the complete factory settings. Wow. I actually had my girlfriend on the back. We rode down to the bike shed and we both turned up with like broken backs. It is just a complete mesh of speed bumps, you know, that whole way from where I live in North London down to Shoreditch. And every single speed bump was a disaster. So what I would say is, even though it's good to kind of check out the shocks as they come in their factory settings, I wouldn't even bother. Just wind that preload right back. And even at the moment, I haven't got the correct amount of sag in there. I've still got about 7 tons of preload in there, and it's still very harsh. I think these springs have got quite a long way to go before I'll be able to figure out exactly what they're doing. So at the moment, it's pretty bumpy. It's way too soon to tell what this suspension's like. I'm just kind of going through the pain barrier at the moment. It's like a new pair of shoes. You know, you've just got to go for a walk and let them break in before you can work out if they're actually comfortable shoes or not. You know, when I got this bike serviced, I turned up with my own oil for the guys. So it's now rocking. That beautiful raspberry goodness, the Silkoline Pro 4. And it does feel quite a bit smoother. And it just looks cool as well. It's got a red eye now. I like that. There's no set route today. Oh my goodness. Woo! So since doing the airbox mod, so it's got the DNA filter and of course the fuel plug as well, I haven't experienced a massive amount more power. It definitely has more power. It's not immediately obvious, but what is immediately obvious is just the pull. It pulls a lot harder now. It feels like there's more torque, even though it's probably very marginal. That's where you feel this, and it just feels a lot smoother as well, just as you're kind of working your way up through the gears, through the lower rev ranges, and then as you start to accelerate, you just get this additional surge. Around about here, it's lovely. It's got a really nice deep roar to it now. Listen, I think it's got deeper since the intake got played with. Listen to this. It's just a fantastic surge all the way. Brake! Oh my god, it's so much fun. As you know, I recently installed the Scorpion red power pipe on this bike, and ever since doing that, you know, it's transformed it. It sounds blimming brilliant. But now with the airbox done, the fuel mod in there as well, it's just given it another dimension in terms of the sound. It's just deep. Oh my goodness, the burble is just I didn't think it could get any better, but it has. Listen to this override. If you just hold it in the right place, you get that wonderful growl on the overrun. Just there. I was worried that this fuel plug was going to take away a lot of that popping and banging. You don't get blatant backfires anymore, but you do still get that lovely bubbling, burbly sound. It's delicious. So I'd say in general the bike just feels a lot smoother. That combination of some decent oil, a bit more fuel, a lot more air, better flow in the exhaust, and suspension, I'm not going to call that one yet, as I said. I think that's definitely one for another video. So I think today is due to be one of the hottest days of the year. It's getting up to about 36 degrees, which is completely nightmarish. It's about, what, 8 in the morning now, so it's not too bad, but I don't want to be riding for too much longer. Yesterday was bad enough. That was about 34 degrees, and I was riding this bike back from the workshop where it had its service. It got so hot that my phone completely packed up. You know, it does that thing where it's like, temperature too hot, which was not great, so I was using it to navigate my way home. But one of the things I noticed on the bike was super weird. I kind of got up onto the Westway and I was riding back, and I noticed that when I got above about 4,000 RPM and started piling on some more power, the bike was just, the revs were climbing, but the bike wasn't actually doing anything. It's like, surely they haven't messed the clutch up. And you know, I gave it a bit of a wobble, and there was no free play in it whatsoever. It was so tight, it was just slipping. Anything above like 4,500 to 5,000 RPM, it would just pile on the revs, but no power. Very strange. It makes you wonder what else they've messed up, doesn't it? I think it will be the last service I pay for with this bike, to be honest. The only thing I'm slightly uncomfortable with, and it's probably the thing that most people are uncomfortable with, and that's the valves. I don't know why, but just freak me out. I don't want to get them wrong. I don't want to muck it up. You just think, oh, you know, the slightest twist of my screwdriver and I'm going to bugger the whole engine. I don't know. I'll think about it. If I can get my head around it, then I'll just do it. Everything else I'm pretty much okay with. And I have decided I'm going to do the YSS suspension upgrade myself on the front of the bike. What is going on here? And that's partly thanks to Uncle Stu's video. He did a great video on how to do it. Seems pretty straightforward. So I'll give it a shot. I'll let you know how I get on with that. But as I said, I'll hold back on doing that for a little bit, just because I want to get these shocks dialed in first. Talk you through the installation process on these mods. It is so simple. First thing to do is just pop off the side panels, get the seat up. It's 3 screws to remove the factory air filter lid, and as you can see on this lid, it is so restricted. It's just 2 little slots for the air to flow through, and then you've got to take out the paper filter, which just slots straight out. Super easy to do that. Then it's honestly just a case of whacking in the new one. It comes pre-oiled out of the box. If you're using a DNA filter, I can't speak for other filters, but if you've got the DNA filter, that is pre-oiled, so you don't need to do anything with that. You just whack it in. Then if you've ordered the DNA bell mouth brackets, again you use the same 3 factory screws, whack it all together, and you're good to go. The fuel plug, again, you've just got to locate the correct white plug. There's 2 white plugs knocking around under your seats. Well, 2 that I saw anyway. One of them's a big plug, don't touch that one. One of them's a small plug, that's the one you want. It's basically the plug with 2 wires, so just unplug that. You might need to use a little flathead screwdriver or something to get that together, or to get that separated, should I say. And thanks mate, boom, and just, yeah, whack it together. Super easy. The only thing to bear in mind is you will need to let the ECU sort its life out a little bit, so give it 10 minutes just to idle. I don't know how effective that is, but everyone says you should do it, so I did it as well. Just leave it turning over, don't blip it, don't rev it, don't do anything, just let it run for 10 minutes. So one other thing to mention is these Moton Customs up and over bar risers. Really happy with these. They lift the bars up by 1 inch and back by 1 inch. And in conjunction with these LSL Naked Bars, I'm so happy with the rider position now. It's absolutely wonderful. Now these risers are quite expensive. They'll cost you about £130 or something like that, but they are a billion miles better than some of the other risers out there, which are effectively just spacers that you'll get charged about 20 quid for. So yeah, I think these are the way to go. The only thing to watch out for is if you are using aftermarket bars, you're going to need to watch out for the cables. So for example, I don't know if you can see here, but my throttle cable that is now routed behind the forks, which is not ideal because it just wasn't long enough to go through its factory routing, which is in front of the forks. And the brake line, it's okay. I had the guys check it when they did the service, but it is getting on for being a little bit tight. I did actually cut about 1 centimetre off either side of these bars using a pipe cutter, not for this mod, just because I wanted them slightly narrower anyway, so I just nipped off literally about 1 centimetre from each side, which just brings it in a bit. It's quite nice. And I think if I hadn't done that, I might have run out of space. I think that's made all the difference actually. These are also super easy to install. It's a little bit of a faff getting under here, getting the spanners in there to release the factory clamps before you tighten everything up underneath the yoke here. Just put the bars in first so that everything kind of aligns itself. The bars will just kind of straighten everything out. Get the bars torqued up and then finally torque up these 2 bolts under here. You can check out the manual for all the torque specs and things like that. Definitely make sure you get those right because they're pretty critical parts, both in terms of over and under torquing them. So have a look in the manual. It's all in there, it's all good. But yeah, they definitely, I think, not only look the part, but they give it a really, really lovely, comfortable position to ride in as well. I'm super happy with these. The only other mod to talk about, as I mentioned at the start of the video, is these headlight brackets from Moton Customs. Look, blimming brilliant, really nice and solid, bringing in that kind of retro look again. I think the tech bike parts brackets are nice, nothing wrong with them at all, look good, but just felt they were a little bit weedy for this bike, needed something a bit more solid up there. And you can tell that they've put a lot of thought into the manufacturing of these. They're really quite something. Quite expensive as well, having said that, but they are beautiful. The nice thing is, I feel like we've almost reached nirvana with this bike. There are a few little things that I want to sort out. I'm still thinking about indicators. I've got this obsession about getting my indicators right, and I've had so much flack from people for putting LEDs on this bike. I mean, honestly, it's been it's been such a bone of contention. I think there's two ways you can go with indicators. You can lean into the whole thing and go for some big incandescent orange ladles on the bike, big spoons, or you can try to make them disappear. And I think I've got it sorted on the back. I'm happy with these little pins on the back. If you're going for that minimalistic look, just not sure. I'm starting to have second thoughts about the indicators on the front. I know I'm being an absolute idiot about this now, but once I get a bee in my bonnet, I can't stop thinking about it until it's perfect. So the only way that I might go is with the same MoBlaze pins up front. I found a little bracket that you can use to get them on the lower part of the triple, and you know that might complete the minimalistic look. But I know that I've still offended some people greatly for putting LEDs on this bike. One person told me I should have just gone out and bought an MT-07, which is weird that you say that, because I did actually think about getting an MT-07 recently, but not for me. I was going to buy it for my girlfriend. In my defence, I'm going to say that, you know, I don't feel bad about taking this bike apart and customising it. I'm sorry, but I don't. It's not a beautifully built classic bike like a Norton or a Bruff Superior or a Vincent. This is a budget-made bike that's perfectly acceptable out of the box if you want to treat it as a budget bike. But Royal Enfield know that this bike is going to appeal to people that want to customise it. This is interesting. Yeah, good one, mate. And that's why they're working with builders from around the world to show what can be done with this bike. And that's why a lot of the parts that I've taken off, I don't feel bad about it, because they're super naff, a lot of them. They're made to look like classic parts, but they're not. They're made of plastic, like the faux chrome indicators. It isn't sacrilege to take a plastic fake bit of chrome off your bike. I'm sorry, but it's not. It isn't sacrilege to replace plastic panels with metal panels. It isn't sacrilege to put some modern touches into a bike, like LEDs and things like that. Don't forget, we're dealing with a bike that's got ABS, fuel injection, oil coolers, an ECU. You know, this is a thoroughly modern bike rocking a 2020 number plate. So no, I don't feel bad about putting LEDs on it. And I do appreciate that some people, you know, they think that, you know, this bike should just be left in its stock form. I disagree, and I think Royal Enfield disagrees as well. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for another video. Just to sum it up, I'm super happy with the performance mods on this bike so far. I think it does make a subtle difference, definitely not a massive change. We're not experiencing huge waves of torque or massive horsepower gains, but that wasn't the expectation really. It was just about trying to smooth it out a little bit, trying to up that fun factor a little bit. And I think with that in mind, it's definitely jobs are good un. So thank you for watching. Don't forget you can subscribe for more. There's tons more videos on this bike on the way as we continue our little journey to customising the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. Stick around for those, and until the next one, ride safe. Woo!